The massive alien vessels appeared without warning in Earth's orbit, their sleek obsidian hulls reflecting the sun's light as they positioned themselves strategically around the planet. 17 ships in total, each one at least 3 miles long, dwarfing humanity's largest space stations. They had arrived silently, their advanced propulsion systems leaving no trace for Earth's detection systems until they were already in position. In the United Earth Defense Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains, alarm systems blared as screens displayed the unexpected visitors. Red emergency lights bathed the underground facility in an eerie glow as military personnel rushed to their stations. General Eleanor Harrington strode purposefully into the command center, her weathered face betraying no emotion despite the chaos erupting around her. At 62 years old, with steel gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and piercing blue eyes that had witnessed 3 global conflicts, she was the embodiment of human military resilience. "Status report," she demanded, her voice cutting through the noise. Admiral James Wilson, second in command, turned from the main display. 17 unknown vessels in geosynchronous orbit. No communications, no warnings. They just appeared. His normally composed demeanor showed cracks of concern. They've positioned themselves over major population centers. Beijing, New York, London, Moscow, Tokyo, all covered. Harrington studied the tactical display, noting the perfect symmetry of the alien formation. Their positioning is too precise. This isn't random. As if responding to her observation, every communication device on Earth simultaneously activated. Television screens, radio transmitters, computer monitors, personal phones, all displayed the same image. A towering figure with iridescent blue-green scales, elongated features, and 6 amber eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern. "People of Earth," the alien's voice resonated, translated perfectly into every human language simultaneously. "I am Admiral Vox of the Galactic Hegemony. Your primitive world has been assessed and found lacking." The alien paused, allowing the words to sink in across the planet. In homes, offices, and streets, humans froze in place, staring at the imposing figure delivering this message. "The Council has determined that your species requires proper guidance to join the interstellar community. You will surrender your sovereignty and all military assets within 72 Earth hours. A transitional government will be established. Resistance is—" The alien's mouth curled into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of crystalline teeth. Inadvisable. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving billions in stunned silence. In the command center, Harrington's expression remained unchanged. "Get me the president now." Within minutes, the emergency session of the United Earth Council had convened virtually. President Daniels, his face grave on the central screen, addressed the military leadership. "General Harrington, what are our options?" "Mr. President, conventional response options are limited. Our most advanced weaponry appears primitive compared to their technology. The diplomatic corps is already preparing contact protocols, but I advise caution." The Secretary of Defense interjected. "Their ship's positioning suggests they're prepared for orbital bombardment." "Standard intimidation tactics." Harrington nodded slightly. "Yes, but there's something interesting about their approach. They know a great deal about us, our languages, our power centers, our communication systems, yet their intelligence seems selective." "Meaning?" President Daniels leaned forward. "Meaning," Harrington replied. "They've missed something critical." The room fell silent as Harrington approached the quantum-secured communications terminal, placing her palm on the biometric scanner. "Mr. President, with your permission, I believe it's time to activate Protocol Thunderchild." The president's eyes widened slightly, but he nodded without hesitation. "Authorized." Harrington's voice remained steady as she transmitted a series of commands to a classified deep space coordinate. "Authorization Harrington Omega 72. Wake the Thunderchild." Admiral Wilson looked at her with confusion. "General, what is Thunderchild?" Instead of answering directly, Harrington turned to the assembled leadership. "Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 50 years, Earth has maintained an elaborate facade. While publicly developing space technology at a predictable pace, we've been operating a classified program beyond Neptune's orbit." She activated a secure holographic display. "The Thunderchild project began after we detected our first alien observation probe in 2067. Instead of announcing our discovery to the public, a decision was made to develop our true military capabilities in absolute secrecy. The hologram displayed a massive vessel unlike anything in Earth's known fleet, nearly 2 kilometers long, with a dark hull composed of materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The UESS Thunderchild is the first of her class, a deep space battleship with capabilities well beyond what we've allowed any potential observers to witness. She's been hiding in the outer solar system, along with her sister ships and support fleet waiting for this exact scenario. President Daniels addressed the stunned group. Humanity is always prepared for the possibility that our first contact with alien life might not be friendly. The Thunderchild represents our insurance policy. Harrington continued. The hegemony believes they're dealing with a planet that just recently mastered basic fusion power and rudimentary interplanetary travel. They expect us to either surrender immediately or attempt diplomatic negotiations while they prepare to pacify our world. A slight smile crossed her face. They're about to discover how wrong they are. In the darkness beyond Neptune, something massive began to stir. Stealth fields that had kept the vessel undetectable for decades slowly powered down as automated systems brought the mighty warship to life. Inside, cryostasis pods released their occupants, the elite crew who had trained in secret for this mission. Captain Thaddeus Wright, the youngest officer ever selected to command such a vessel, opened his eyes as the cryostasis sequence completed. The neural interface implanted at the base of his skull immediately connected him to the ship's systems, flooding his mind with status reports. Status. He spoke aloud for the benefit of his awakening crew. His executive officer, Commander Diana Reeves, checked the tactical displays as she shook off the effects of long sleep. All systems nominal, Captain. Phantom drive is operational. Weapon systems at full capacity. Wright nodded, his mind already forming the battle plan as the neural link fed him information about the hegemony fleet, now threatening Earth. Prepare for immediate departure, he ordered. Set course for Earth orbit. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. As the massive engines powered up, the battleship's hull seemed to shimmer, the advanced stealth technology rendering it nearly invisible against the blackness of space. The Thunderchild began its journey toward Earth, carrying with it humanity's true response to the hegemony's ultimatum. On Earth, General Harrington looked up at the alien vessels visible through the command center's skylight and whispered, "They expected diplomacy. They're about to meet thunder instead." Aboard the hegemony flagship, Admiral Vox received the humans' response to his ultimatum with obvious amusement. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Lyrax, displayed the transmission on the bridge's central holographic projector. They wished to send a diplomatic envoy to discuss terms, Lyrax reported, her forearms manipulating the control interfaces with practiced precision. A single unarmed shuttle. Vox's amber eyes narrowed as he studied the incoming vessel specifications. Primitive propulsion, minimal shielding. Exactly what we expected. He turned to address the bridge crew, his scales shifting color slightly with his satisfaction. The assessment was correct. They recognize their inferiority and seek to negotiate the terms of their submission. What the hegemony sensors failed to detect was Dr. Kira Donovan, hidden in the shuttle's specially shielded cargo hold, a quantum physicist whose revolutionary theories had been kept classified for decades. She carefully calibrated a device no larger than a briefcase. Its purpose, to create a temporary blind spot in the hegemony's detection grid when activated. Approaching hegemony flagship, announced Commander Marcus Reed from the shuttle's cockpit. Handpicked for this mission due to his background in both military strategy and xenolinguistics, Reed maintained a deliberately nervous demeanor as he piloted the shuttle toward the massive alien vessel. This is Earth Diplomatic Shuttle requesting docking permission. The shuttle's apparent vulnerability was entirely by design. Every aspect of the craft had been carefully constructed to reinforce the hegemony's perception of human technological limitations. Back on Earth, in the United Earth Defense Command Center, General Harrington stood before the assembled military leadership. The room, secured against any form of surveillance, allowed her to speak freely about humanity's true capabilities. Operation Phantom Thunder is now in Phase 2, she announced. Commander Reed's diplomatic mission serves two critical purposes: to distract the hegemony and to position Dr. Donovan's quantum disruption device within their detection grid. Admiral Wilson studied the tactical display, showing the diplomatic shuttle's approach to the alien flagship. And the Thunderchild? Currently accelerating through the outer solar system, Harrington replied. Captain Wright reports all systems operational. The Phantom Drive is charged and ready. On the main screen, a secure feed showed the true extent of humanity's hidden military power. Deep within the Kuiper Belt, massive shipyards concealed within hollowed-out dwarf planets had begun to activate. Vessels of varying sizes, from swift interceptors to heavy cruisers, emerged from decades of concealment. For 50 years, Harrington continued, we've maintained the facade of a technologically limited species. Every public space program, every breakthrough in propulsion or weapons technology, carefully staged to appear primitive to outside observers. President Daniel's voice came through the secure channel. The Thunderchild must arrive precisely when Dr. Donovan activates her device. The window will be brief. Aboard the UESS Thunderchild, Captain Wright received the synchronized mission timeline through his neural interface. The massive battleship had reached full acceleration, though to any conventional sensors it remained completely invisible. The Phantom Drive, humanity's greatest technological achievement, allowed the vessel to exist partially out of phase with normal space-time. All hands to battle stations, Wright commanded, his voice calm despite the gravity of their mission. The bridge crew, 50 of Earth's most capable officers, responded with disciplined efficiency. Commander Diana Reeves approached his command chair. Phantom Drive charged to full capacity, Captain. We can execute the jump on your mark. Wright nodded, his expression resolute. The hegemony expects a primitive species cowering before superior technology. They're about to learn why humanity survived its own violent history. The battleship continued its silent approach. Its weapons systems, technologies decades beyond what Earth publicly acknowledged possessing, prepared for the coming confrontation. On the hegemony flagship, Commander Reed was escorted through towering corridors by guards whose armored exoskeletons made them twice his height. He maintained an appropriately awed expression, his eyes widening at the ship's obviously advanced technology. Your vessel is impressive, he offered to his escorts, who regarded him with the indifference typically shown to representatives of conquered worlds. They arrived at a vast chamber where Admiral Vox waited, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth from multiple angles. The alien leader didn't rise from his elevated command throne as Reed entered. Human, Vox acknowledged with minimal courtesy. Your species has shown wisdom in seeking terms rather than futile resistance. The transition will be less painful this way. Reed bowed respectfully, exactly as expected from a representative of an intimidated world. Admiral, there appears to be a misunderstanding about Earth's status and capabilities. We request formal audience with the Galactic Council to present evidence that your assessment is flawed. Laughter, a harsh, clicking sound, echoed through the chamber as Vox and his officers reacted to Reed's statement. Evidence? Vox leaned forward, his massive frame dwarfing the human diplomat. Your species has barely mastered rudimentary spaceflight. Your weapons are primitive kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. What possible evidence could change the Council's assessment? In the shuttle's cargo hold, Dr. Donovan received the signal through her secure implant. The quantum disruption device hummed to life, its specialized field expanding outward in a sphere that temporarily interfered with the hegemony's advanced sensors. In that precise moment, Captain Wright gave the command. Execute Phantom Jump. The Thunderchild's drive core pulsed with blinding energy as the massive battleship seemed to fold into itself before vanishing completely. On the bridge of the hegemony flagship, alarm suddenly blared. Vox rose from his throne, his scales flushing dark with agitation as the sensor displays flickered and distorted. What is happening? He demanded. Before any officer could respond, a massive object appeared in low Earth orbit, directly between the planet and the hegemony fleet. Where empty space had been moments before, there now hovered a vessel of impossible proportions and design, 2 kilometers of dark angular hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports along its length glowed with contained energy that defied known physics. The hegemony sensors, recovering from Dr. Donovan's disruption, provided the first detailed scans of the human battleship. The results caused visible distress among the alien officers. Impossible, Lyrax whispered, her 4 hands trembling slightly as she studied the readings. Their shield technology, their weapons. This cannot be a human vessel. As the hegemony crew stared in disbelief, a transmission cut through all frequencies. Captain Wright's voice was calm but carried unmistakable authority as his image appeared on the hegemony bridge displays. This is Captain Thaddeus Wright of the United Earth ship Thunderchild to all hegemony vessels. Your fleet is currently targeting a sovereign world protected under Article 7 of the Terran Defense Mandate. You will power down weapon systems and withdraw to a minimum safe distance of 1 astronomical unit immediately. In the diplomatic chamber, Commander Reed smiled faintly at Admiral Vox's shocked expression. As I was saying, Reed continued calmly, there appears to have been a misunderstanding about Earth's technological classification. Perhaps now would be a good time to discuss those terms you mentioned. Silence gripped the hegemony flagship's bridge. Admiral Vox stared at the massive human battleship now positioned between his fleet and Earth, his 6 amber eyes widening with disbelief and growing rage. The Thunderchild hung in space like a dark promise, its weapons ports glowing with barely contained energy. Scan that vessel again, he ordered, his voice low and dangerous. There must be some trick. Sub-Commander Lyrax worked frantically at her console. Confirmed, Admiral. The ship it's definitely of human origin, but the technology readings are impossible. Energy signatures indicate power levels exceeding our own capital ships. Weapon systems of unknown configuration. And their shield, she paused, rechecking her data. They appear to utilize principles of dark matter manipulation we've only theorized about. Vox slammed his scaled fist against his command throne. Impossible. The assessment data showed they were at least a century from such developments. In the diplomatic chamber, Commander Reed stood calmly before the enraged alien leader. Admiral, I believe it's time for us to speak with the Galactic Council directly. Earth requests an emergency session. Vox turned his fury toward the human diplomat.
You deceived us.
For how long have your people hidden your true capabilities? Longer than you might imagine, Reed replied evenly. Perhaps that's something the Council should consider before authorizing further assessments of supposedly primitive worlds. Aboard the Thunderchild, Captain Wright monitored the hegemony fleet's response. Their vessels had shifted formation, moving to surround his battleship. It was exactly what he had anticipated. They're taking offensive positions, Commander Reeves reported. 17 vessels moving to encirclement pattern. Wright nodded, unsurprised. Let them come. Maintain defensive posture. No aggressive actions unless they fire first. Through his neural interface, Wright received a direct communication from General Harrington. Thunderchild, this is Earth Command. Your appearance has prompted the hegemony to request an emergency council session. Commander Reed is being transported to the council station. Maintain your position and show restraint, but protect Earth at all costs. Understood, Wright replied. What about Dr. Donovan? Still aboard the hegemony flagship, Harrington answered. Her quantum disruption device is ready for secondary deployment if needed. The Galactic Council Station hung in space at the edge of the solar system, a massive structure of crystalline spires and curved metal that served as the diplomatic hub for 17 spacefaring civilizations. The hegemony, as the dominant military power, had used the Council to legitimize their expansion for centuries. Inside the Grand Council chamber, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in an emergency session. The room hummed with tense conversation as images of the human battleship were displayed on massive holographic screens. Commander Reed was escorted into the chamber by hegemony guards. Despite being the center of attention in a room full of alien dignitaries, he maintained perfect composure as he approached the central speaking platform. Esteemed Council, he began, addressing the assembled representatives, I appear before you under unusual circumstances. My world stands accused of deception, while simultaneously facing a hegemony fleet that arrived unannounced in our orbit with demands of surrender. The Grand Arbiter, a crystalline entity that served as the Council's impartial mediator, floated forward. Human representative, the Council convenes to address the hegemony's claim that your species has violated assessment protocols by concealing advanced military technology. Admiral Vox, who had traveled to the Council station via high-speed transport, entered the chamber with a dramatic flourish. These humans have maintained a deliberate facade of technological inferiority, while secretly building weapons of war. They cannot be trusted to join the galactic community. Murmurs spread through the assembled representatives. The Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed with subtle light patterns. "Commander Reed, how does Earth respond to these allegations?" Reed straightened to his full height. "Earth acknowledges that we have developed in secret. We did so because we discovered something disturbing about the hegemony's pattern of assessments and the fate of species deemed primitive by their standards." He activated a small device that projected a series of images and data streams. "For the past 50 years, Earth has placed deep cover observers throughout hegemony territory. What we discovered was a systematic pattern of conquest disguised as guidance." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices as Reed displayed evidence of hegemony interference on dozens of worlds, species subjected to resource extraction, forced labor, and cultural suppression under the guise of uplifting. "Lies," Vox shouted over the chaos. "This human presents fabricated evidence to distract from their own deception." In orbit around Earth, the standoff continued. The hegemony fleet had maintained their encirclement of the Thunderchild, but had not yet opened fire. Captain Wright received new sensor data that caused him immediate concern. "They're charging weapons," he announced to his bridge crew. "All ships in the hegemony fleet are powering up main batteries." Commander Reeves moved to the tactical station. "Orders, Captain?" Wright's expression remained calm despite the escalating threat. "Raise shields to full power. Activate the gravitational lens array, but keep weapons in standby mode. Let's not give them an excuse." The Thunderchild's advanced shield system engaged, a complex field of manipulated space-time that could theoretically redirect any incoming attack. It was technology that Earth had developed in absolute secrecy, knowing this day would eventually come. At the United Earth Defense Command Center, General Harrington monitored both situations simultaneously, the council session and the orbital standoff. President Daniels joined her via secure holographic link. "The moment of truth," the president observed grimly. 50 years of preparation for first contact, and it comes to this." Harrington nodded. "We always knew the hegemony would come eventually. The question was never if, but when, and whether we'd be ready. And are we ready, General?" Her eyes remained fixed on the tactical display showing the hegemony fleet surrounding the Thunderchild. "We're about to find out, Mr. President." In the council chamber, Reed continued presenting evidence despite Vox's interruptions. "The hegemony's assessment protocol is designed to identify technologically developing worlds with valuable resources but limited defensive capabilities. In every case we've documented, the assessed species either surrendered their sovereignty or faced orbital bombardment. Those who surrendered became client states, their resources harvested to fuel further hegemony expansion." The Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed rapidly as it processed this information. "These are serious allegations, Commander. What does Earth propose?" "Earth proposes a full investigation into the hegemony's assessment program and the immediate recognition of all sovereign species' right to develop without interference." Reed's voice carried throughout the chamber. "And as a show of good faith, we request that the hegemony fleet withdraw from Earth orbit immediately." Vox stepped forward, his scales darkening with fury. "While we debate, that human battleship threatens our fleet. I have authorized my commanders to defend themselves if the human vessel makes any aggressive move." Reed's eyes widened. "You've ordered your fleet to fire on the Thunderchild? Without council authorization?" Before Vox could respond, an urgent communication interrupted the proceedings. The main display showed the hegemony fleet in Earth orbit, weapons fully charged and targeting the lone human battleship. "It appears," the Arbiter observed, "that we may witness a demonstration of human military capability sooner than anticipated." In orbit around Earth, the hegemony flagship transmitted its ultimatum to the Thunderchild. "Human vessel, power down your shields and surrender, or we will open fire." Captain Wright received the message with a grim smile. "So much for diplomacy," he murmured, then opened a channel to respond. "Hegemony vessels, this is your final warning. Any aggressive action against this ship or the planet we protect will be met with immediate defensive measures." The hegemony responded by firing. Beams of concentrated plasma erupted from the hegemony warships, converging on the lone human battleship in a coordinated barrage designed to overwhelm any defensive system. The combined firepower would have been sufficient to shatter a small moon. In the council chamber, the assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as the attack unfolded on the main display. Admiral Vox's mouth curved into a satisfied smile, certain of his fleet's victory. What happened next would be recorded in the archives of every spacefaring civilization as the moment that changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Thunderchild's dark matter shield activated, creating a gravitational lens that curved the incoming plasma beams. Instead of impacting against the hull, the energy weapons bent around the human vessel in graceful arcs, their destructive power harmlessly redirected into subspace. Not a single shot found its target. Impossible, whispered Vox, his scales paling to a sickly blue-gray as he stared at the display. On the Thunderchild's bridge, alarms blared as the ship absorbed the residual energy from the deflected attack. Captain Wright remained calm in his command chair, his neural interface providing real-time data on the ship's status. Shield integrity at 97%, reported Commander Reeves. All systems functioning within optimal parameters. Wright nodded. Execute Phantom Maneuver Alpha. Let's show them what this ship can really do. Throughout the massive vessel, the Phantom Drive Core pulsed with brilliant energy. The technology, humanity's most closely guarded secret, allowed the Thunderchild to partially phase between dimensions, creating the impossible. In Earth orbit, observers on both sides watched in disbelief as the human battleship appeared to split into 3 perfect copies, each positioning strategically around the hegemony fleet. The vessels were not holograms or sensor ghosts, but fully physical manifestations of the same ship existing simultaneously at multiple points in space-time. In the council chamber, the display showed the impossible maneuver. Representatives from technically advanced species rose from their seats, expressions of shock and scientific curiosity on their alien faces. The Grand Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed rapidly with patterns never before seen, indicating extreme interest or perhaps alarm. "What are we witnessing?" the Arbiter asked, its harmonious voice betraying unusual emotion. Commander Reed stood calmly at the center of the chaos. "You're witnessing the Thunderchild's Phantom Drive in action, a technology that allows partial quantum superposition of a macroscopic object. In simple terms, our ship can exist in multiple places simultaneously." He turned toward Admiral Vox, whose expression had shifted from confidence to dawning horror. "Earth has maintained a policy of technological obscuration for generations, Admiral. What you thought was primitive spaceflight capability was merely what we allowed you to see." At the United Earth Defense Command Center, General Harrington watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The hegemony fleet had frozen in position, clearly uncertain how to respond to the Thunderchild's unexpected capabilities. "Phase 2 of the operation is complete," she informed President Daniels. "The hegemony fleet is contained, and the Council has witnessed both their aggression and our defensive capability." "And Phase 3? the President asked. "That depends on the hegemony's next move," Harrington replied. "But Captain Wright has authorization to demonstrate our offensive capabilities if necessary." In orbit, the hegemony ships adjusted their formation, weapons still charged but no longer firing. The 3 manifestations of the Thunderchild maintained their triangular positioning, creating a perfect containment field around the alien fleet. Captain Wright opened a communication channel to all hegemony vessels. "This is Captain Wright of the Thunderchild. Your unprovoked attack has been neutralized. We will now demonstrate the consequences of further aggression." With precision that spoke of years of training for this exact scenario, the Thunderchild, all 3 manifestations simultaneously, fired a single, precisely calibrated graviton beam. The weapons did not target any hegemony vessel directly. Instead, the beams intersected in the empty space between 2 hegemony cruisers. The resulting energy wake sliced through space with surgical precision, creating a controlled gravitational distortion that disabled the propulsion systems of the nearest alien vessels without destroying them. 7 hegemony ships suddenly found themselves adrift, their engines shut down by forces their engineers had never encountered. In the council chamber, silence had given way to urgent discussions among the representatives. The display showed the disabled hegemony vessels and the 3 manifestations of the Thunderchild maintaining their position. Admiral Vox turned to face the council, his previous confidence shattered. "These humans possess technology far beyond what any emerging species should have. They must have stolen it or been given it illegally by some advanced civilization." The Arbiter's crystalline form shifted toward Commander Reed. "Is this true? Has Earth received technological assistance from an established spacefaring species?" Reed shook his head. "No, Arbiter. Everything you've witnessed was developed independently by human scientists, working in secret for generations. We hid our advances because history taught us that emerging civilizations that display their full capabilities too early become targets. We studied the hegemony and this council for decades before you even knew we existed. He activated another projection, displaying the vast network of hidden shipyards and research facilities throughout Earth's solar system. The Thunderchild is not unique. It is merely the first you have seen. The revelation sent new waves of shock through the council. The representative from the Solari Confederation, a species known for their scientific achievements, leaned forward with obvious interest. These quantum superposition principles. Our theorists have only begun to explore such concepts. How did humans solve the coherence problem at macroscopic scale? Before Reed could answer, an urgent signal interrupted the proceedings. The main display shifted to show new activity in Earth's solar system. From beyond the orbit of Neptune, dozens of vessels began to emerge from concealment. Ships of various classes and sizes, all bearing the insignia of Earth's hidden space force. A full battle fleet revealing itself after decades of secrecy. General Harrington's voice came through on an open channel to both the council chamber and all ships in the system. This is General Eleanor Harrington of United Earth Defense Command. In response to the hegemony's unprovoked aggression, I am authorizing the deployment of the Third Deep Space Fleet. This is not an aggressive action, but a defensive measure to ensure Earth's sovereignty is respected. On the council station, Commander Reed watched the representatives' reactions with careful attention. The moment was delicate. Earth needed to demonstrate power sufficient to deter future threats without appearing to be an aggressor themselves. Earth does not seek conflict, he addressed the council. We come not to conquer, but to join the galactic community. As equals, not subjects. We request formal recognition of Earth's sovereign status and an immediate investigation into the hegemony's assessment program. The Grand Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed with complex patterns as it processed both the military situation and the diplomatic request. After a moment of consideration, it turned toward Admiral Vox. The evidence presented by Earth raises serious concerns about hegemony practices. The Council will convene a special investigative committee. Its harmonious voice carried throughout the chamber. In the meantime, all hegemony forces are ordered to stand down and withdraw from Earth orbit immediately. Vox's scales darkened with rage, but even he could see the shift in the Council's mood. The human display of advanced technology had changed everything. What had begun as a routine assessment of a seemingly primitive world had revealed a major new power in the galaxy. In Earth orbit, the Thunderchild maintained its position as the hegemony ships powered down their weapon systems. Captain Wright received updated orders from General Harrington. Maintain defensive posture but allow the hegemony fleet to withdraw. The diplomatic path is now open. Wright acknowledged the order, then addressed his crew. They came expecting to find an easy conquest. Instead, they discovered that humanity has teeth. Let's make sure they never forget that lesson. As the Third Deep Space Fleet took up formation around Earth, the message was clear to all watching species across the galaxy. Humanity would not be underestimated again. 3 days after the confrontation in Earth orbit, the Galactic Council station hummed with unprecedented activity. Representatives from all 17 spacefaring civilizations had gathered for what many were already calling the most significant diplomatic event in centuries. The massive central chamber had been reconfigured for an extended emergency session, with additional security provided by neutral parties. Admiral Vox stood before the council, stripped of his command insignia and flanked by guards. His once brilliant scales had dulled to a flat gray, the hegemony equivalent of a disgraced officer. The evidence presented by Earth against him and the hegemony assessment program had been damning. The investigation has confirmed, announced the Grand Arbiter, its crystalline form glowing with formal authority, that under Admiral Vox's direction, the hegemony has systematically manipulated assessment protocols to target resource-rich worlds with developing technologies. In 27 documented cases, species were either forced into submission or subjected to military action when they refused to surrender their sovereignty. The chamber filled with murmurs as the representatives processed this information. For many of the smaller powers who had long suspected hegemony manipulation but lacked proof, This confirmation vindicated years of suspicion. Outside the station, a new formation of ships maintained careful watch. The UESS Thunderchild hovered at the center, surrounded by vessels from both Earth's fleet and ships contributed by other Council species concerned about hegemony reprisals. The unprecedented coalition represented a fundamental shift in the galaxy's power dynamics. Inside the station's secure diplomatic wing, Commander Reed met with General Harrington, who had arrived via high-speed transport the previous day. They reviewed final details before the Council's formal recognition ceremony. The hegemony delegation is demanding additional verification of our technological capabilities, Reed reported. They still claim we must have received outside assistance to develop the Phantom Drive. Harrington smiled slightly. Of course they do. It's easier to believe we stole the technology than to accept that we developed it ourselves while they weren't looking. Should we provide the technical data they're requesting? Absolutely not, Harrington replied firmly. Earth has revealed enough to establish our position. Some secrets should remain ours alone. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Captain Wright monitored both the diplomatic proceedings and the surrounding space. The ship had resumed its singular form, the Phantom Drive powered down to normal operational levels. Through his neural interface, Wright received continuous updates from Earth Command and the security teams on the Council station. Captain, Commander Reeves approached with a data tablet. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the Hegemony home fleet near their border. Long-range sensors indicate they may be mobilizing. Wright studied the data with a frown. Inform General Harrington immediately. It seems some in the hegemony aren't ready to accept the new reality. In the council chamber, the formal proceedings began with the Grand Arbiter addressing the assembled representatives. Today marks a significant transition in our galactic community. The revelation of Earth's true capabilities and the evidence they have provided regarding hegemony assessment protocols necessitates a reassessment of our fundamental structures. The Arbiter's crystalline, form pulsed with formal patterns. The Council hereby recognizes United Earth as a sovereign power, with full membership rights. Furthermore, we establish an investigative committee to review all species currently classified as developing or under hegemony guidance. The representative from the hegemony, a senior diplomat, who had replaced the disgraced Admiral Vox, rose in protest. The Council oversteps its authority. The hegemony has been the guarantor of galactic stability for centuries. This human deception threatens everything we have built. Before the Arbiter could respond, an urgent communication interrupted the proceedings. The main display showed a massive fleet of hegemony warships moving into formation near their home system. It appears, the Arbiter observed, that elements within the hegemony reject the Council's decision. General Harrington stepped forward, her weathered face betraying no concern despite the implied threat. Earth anticipated this possibility. With the Council's permission, I would like to address the hegemony leadership directly. The Arbiter granted permission with a pulse of light. Harrington stood at the center of the chamber as the communication channel opened to the Hegemony Command. This is General Eleanor Harrington of United Earth Defense Command addressing the Hegemony leadership. Your fleet movements have been detected and are being monitored. I strongly advise against any military action that might be interpreted as aggression toward Earth or this Council. The Hegemony Supreme Commander, an imposing figure with battle-scarred scales, appeared on the display. Your deception has undermined centuries of established order, human. The hegemony will not be dictated to by an upstart species that is hidden in the shadows. Harrington's expression remained calm. Supreme Commander, when the hegemony fleet arrived in Earth orbit, you saw only the Thunderchild. What you're about to witness is why attempting to retaliate would be a grave mistake. She activated her secure command interface. Initiate operation reveal. Throughout the galaxy, at strategic points near major trade routes, diplomatic hubs, and key military installations, sensor stations suddenly detected new signals. Hidden Earth vessels and installations that had maintained complete stealth for decades simultaneously deactivated their concealment systems. On the Council display, a galaxy map illuminated with hundreds of previously undetected human ships and outposts. The revelation shocked even Earth's new allies. Humanity's presence extended far beyond what anyone had suspected. For generations, Harrington explained, Earth has prepared for first contact by establishing a hidden network throughout this galaxy. We have observation posts near every major power, defensive installations protecting key approach vectors to our solar system, and rapid response fleets positioned to counter any threat. The Supreme Commander stared at the display, visibly processing the implications of Earth's revealed network. We did not develop these capabilities to threaten or conquer, Harrington continued. Earth seeks peaceful cooperation with all species, but we will never again allow ourselves to be vulnerable to those who mistake restraint for weakness. In the silence that followed, Captain Wright received new orders through his neural interface. The Thunderchild's engines powered up as the massive vessel moved into a more visible position near the Council Station. Supreme Commander, Wright addressed the hegemony leader. Perhaps a demonstration would help clarify Earth's position. With precise control, the Thunderchild activated its phantom drive at partial capacity. The ship's hull shimmered as it partially phased between dimensions, creating a visual display of technological mastery that left no doubt about humanity's capabilities. The hegemony has two paths forward, Wright continued: peaceful cooperation under the new Council framework, or opposition to a force you cannot defeat. The choice is yours. After a tense moment, the Supreme Commander's scales shifted to a more neutral color. The hegemony will comply with the Council's directives. Our fleet movements were merely precautionary. As the transmission ended, the Council chamber filled with relieved conversation. The Grand Arbiter approached General Harrington and Commander Reed. Earth's strategy of hidden development was unprecedented, the Arbiter observed. Your species prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Harrington nodded. A lesson from our own history. The powerful rarely respect the weak, regardless of their potential or worth. We chose to appear weak while becoming strong enough to demand respect when the time came. The Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully, a philosophy that has implications for many developing worlds currently under hegemony influence. Precisely, Reed agreed. Earth proposes a new approach, a protected development protocol that allows emerging civilizations to evolve without interference or exploitation. With the Council's support and Earth's protection, no species need surrender their sovereignty to survive. In the days that followed, Earth's diplomatic team worked with the Council to establish new frameworks for interstellar relations. The hegemony's assessment program was dismantled, and investigations began into the treatment of worlds under their control. Aboard the Thunderchild, Captain Wright received new orders from Earth Command. The battleship would lead a diplomatic mission to visit each world previously assessed by the hegemony, offering them the choice of independence under the new Protected Development Protocol. As the massive vessel prepared to depart the Council Station, Wright addressed his crew over the ship-wide communication system. For generations, humanity prepared in secret for this moment, the day we would step onto the galactic stage. We developed not just technology, but wisdom. Not just weapons, but restraint. Today we begin the real mission for which the Thunderchild was built. To ensure that no species ever again faces what we feared. Conquest disguised as guidance. The battleship's engines glowed with controlled power as it moved away from the station, its dark hull no longer hidden but proudly displayed. Throughout the galaxy, the message spread rapidly. A new power had emerged, one that had mastered both thunder and whispers. They had expected diplomacy and laughed at humanity's perceived weakness. Now the galaxy understood. Earth had brought thunder instead.